Robert Chen had built his fortune in technology, but at 58, he'd learned that success often meant missing the small moments. His daughter Emma, just 7 years old, was growing up faster than he could keep pace with. Her mother had passed when Emma was only 3, leaving Robert to navigate fatherhood largely alone. That's when Maria Santos entered their lives. Maria was in her early 30s, with warm brown eyes and a gentle patience that seemed endless. She wore her dark hair pulled back simply, and her smile had a way of making the large, quiet house feel like a home. She'd been Emma's nanny for nearly 2 years now, and Robert trusted her completely. Still, he realized how little he truly knew about the woman who spent more waking hours with his daughter than he did. On this particular Tuesday afternoon, Robert's meeting had been cancelled unexpectedly. Instead of calling ahead, he decided to surprise Emma. Perhaps they could go for ice cream, just the two of them. He needed that. They both did. As he pulled into the driveway earlier than usual, Robert noticed the living room curtains were open, sunlight streaming through the windows. Good. They were home. He entered quietly through the front door, setting his briefcase down softly. That's when he heard guitar music. Not from the television, but real music. A piano. Robert followed the sound to the sitting room, a space they rarely used. The old upright piano had come with the house, a relic from the previous owners that Robert had never bothered to remove or tune. He stopped in the doorway, and what he saw made his throat tighten. Maria sat at the piano bench, her fingers moving across the keys with practiced grace. The melody was Chopin a nocturne, if Robert remembered correctly. Beside her, perched on the bench with perfect posture, was Emma. His daughter's small hands rested on the keys in the lower register while Maria played the upper melody, their music intertwining like a conversation. But it wasn't just the music that held Robert frozen in place. It was the look on his daughter's face. Emma was glowing. Her eyes were closed, and she swayed slightly with the rhythm, completely absorbed. When she hit a wrong note and grimaced, Maria simply smiled, her own playing never faltering, and whispered something that made Emma nod and try again. Robert had never known Emma wanted to learn piano. He'd never known Maria could play. How many other small things had he missed? The piece came to a gentle close, the final notes hanging in the air like a question. Emma opened her eyes and beamed up at Maria. That was the best one yet. Can we do it again? Of course, Mija, Maria said softly. But first, let's work on that tricky part in the middle. Remember, it's like telling a story. Your fingers need to speak gently here. That's when Emma spotted him. Daddy. She jumped off the bench and ran to him, wrapping her small arms around his waist. You're home early. Did you hear us? Did you hear me play? Robert knelt down, bringing himself to her eye level. His vision blurred slightly, and he blinked. I did, sweetheart. You sounded beautiful. Both of you did. Maria had stood up, her hands clasped in front of her, looking uncertain. Mr. Chen, I'm sorry. I should have asked permission to use the piano. Emma heard me playing one day when I thought she was napping, and she wanted to learn so badly. I didn't mean to overstep her. Robert held up his hand gently, stopping her. He stood slowly, one hand still resting on Emma's shoulder. Maria, how long have you been teaching her? About 4 months, Maria admitted, her voice quiet. Just 20 minutes each day, after her homework is finished. I know I should have asked, but she glanced down at Emma. She reminded me of myself at that age. I wanted so much to learn, but my family couldn't afford lessons. When I finally taught myself as an adult, I realized what I'd missed. I didn't want Emma to wait that long if she didn't have to. 4 months. Robert had been coming home to an empty feeling house for 4 months, not knowing that it had been filled with music every afternoon. He'd been so focused on conference calls and quarterly reports that he'd missed his daughter discovering something that made her shine like this. Why didn't you tell me, Emma? He asked gently. Emma looked down, scuffing her shoe against the floor. I wanted to surprise you when I got really good. Maria said the best gifts are the ones you work hard on. Something broke open in Robert's chest, something that had been locked tight since his wife died. He'd been so busy trying to provide for Emma, to give her every material advantage, that he'd forgotten to simply be present for moments like these. He walked over to the piano and sat down on the bench. The keys were dusty except where Maria and Emma had been playing. He pressed middle C, the note ringing out clear despite the piano being out of tune. "My mother tried to teach me piano when I was young," Robert said quietly. "I was terrible at it. I had no patience, always rushing ahead, wanting to master it immediately." He smiled sadly. "She told me that music can't be rushed, that it teaches you to be present, to really listen." I didn't understand what she meant then. He looked up at Maria, really seeing her for the first time, not just as the nanny, the employee, but as a person with her own gifts and her own story. A person who had given his daughter something precious not because she was paid to, but because she understood what it meant to want something beautiful and unreachable. "I'm the one who should apologize," Robert said. "You've been teaching Emma something far more valuable than piano. You've been showing her that kindness means paying attention to what people need, even when they don't ask for it." He paused. "Would you consider staying for dinner? I'd like to hear you both play some more. And Maria, I'd like to hear your story, if you're willing to share it." Maria's eyes widened slightly, then softened. She nodded. "I'd like that, Mr. Chen." "Robert," he corrected gently, "I think we're past formalities, don't you?" As Emma climbed back onto the bench, eager to show her father the 3 pieces she'd learned, Robert stood to the side, listening. He pulled out his phone, not to check email, but to clear his calendar for the rest of the afternoon. Some meetings, he realized, had been waiting his whole life to happen. The music filled the house again, imperfect but honest. And for the first time since his wife's death, Robert understood what home was supposed to sound like. It sounded like these, like his daughter's careful notes mixing with Maria's steady harmony, like laughter when mistakes were made, like the patience of someone who taught not for money but for love. That evening, over a simple dinner that Maria and Emma insisted on cooking together, Robert made a decision. He would learn piano too, not to master it, but to sit beside his daughter on that bench, to be fully present for this chapter of her life. He'd missed too much already, but perhaps it wasn't too late to catch up. "Will you teach me too?" he asked Maria as they cleared the dishes. She smiled that same warm smile that had made his house a home. "It would be my honor. But I warn you, Emma's already ahead of you. She's a natural." Emma giggled. "Don't worry, Daddy, I'll help you with the hard parts." And she did. 3 times a week, after work, Robert would sit at the piano with his daughter on one side and Maria on the other, learning slowly what he'd been too impatient to learn as a boy, that the most beautiful things in life can't be rushed, that showing up is more important than being perfect, and that sometimes the greatest kindness is simply noticing the people who make your life richer just by being in it. The piano was eventually tuned. The music got better. But more importantly, Robert learned to hear not just the notes, but the love beneath them. And that made all the difference.